Well, hello, everyone. We had a meeting just now of leaders in the pro-choice movement and providing services, abortion services for women across the state of Illinois and the many women who have had to seek refuge in Illinois because their states have closed off the possibility of them getting reproductive care. So we're having all the time continual conversation, but this was a particularly important day, the 51st anniversary of Roe v. Wade. It's a bittersweet day for all of us because the right to an abortion has been taken away from more than half of women across the across the United States. And we all believe that that is incredibly unfair and in our view, unconstitutional. And we want to make sure that we're providing care for people across the state of Illinois and for anybody that comes to the state because they've had to escape regimes, state legislatures and governors who have taken away those rights. So with that, happy to take any questions that you may have.
First of all, happy belated birthday.
Thank you very much.
How important will this issue be from your perspective as we enter the next election cycle? It looks like our candidates are pretty well defined at this point. The importance and Illinois' importance in that debate.
The issue of abortion in the 2024 elections is perhaps the most intense issue that will be debated and discussed throughout this year, and I believe that a majority of Americans will go to the polls understanding that if they vote against the pro-choice candidates, that's Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that they are voting to take away abortion rights and fundamental rights from women across the nation. So I think this is a vital issue, and it will be determinative in the end for what happens in November.
Is abortion rights just the harbinger of what could come as far as rights being taken away?
Yeah, I think you've seen that the candidates in the Republican Party, all of them, and now I guess we're down to Nikki Haley and Donald Trump, all want to take away a woman's right to choose. Period. End of sentence. Let there be no debate about that. And one of them, Donald Trump, has been responsible for appointing people to the Supreme Court who have actually taken away women's rights. That's just one of many freedoms that they are going after. They want to take away your right to choose what books you'll read in the library. They want to take away your right to have a school that will teach African American history or the history of Native Americans or the history of LGBTQ Americans. They want to end all of that and take us back to the 1950s or before. So I think people should take note that abortion isn't the only thing that's on the ballot in the presidential election coming up. It's also across the board these fundamental freedoms.
Governor, not much has changed as far as abortion access and value. Well, I guess nothing has changed here in Illinois. Why is this such a big issue for you, or is it not Illinois but the broader picture?
Number one, we want to make sure that we are securing women's rights for, as long and as broadly as we can. Second, we know that women are seeking those rights coming across the border from places like Missouri and Wisconsin and Indiana, and we want to provide the services to them as well if they should need it. The providers that were here today, many of them are seeing many more patients as a result of that. Again, these are refugees from other states. And so this is a vitally important fundamental reason that many of us are engaged in the fight for freedom. And I will say that, at least for me personally, I believe that we need to continue this battle to figure out how we can do a better job of providing the right kinds of services. Because it isn't just a question of, the old thinking that it was a single mom who got pregnant and, a single woman who got pregnant and is seeking an abortion, has never had a child before. We're talking about families now. Women who are in Missouri or in Indiana who have an ectopic pregnancy or have some other challenge within their with their health care related to reproductive health. And their lives are on the line. And we need to make sure that we are the ones here in Illinois that are helping to save their lives.
Can I just follow up just with that? On the flip side, Republicans seem to be making immigration as the primary topic that they want to talk about in this election cycle. It seems like Democrats don't care as much about that as an issue to drive their supporters to the poll as Republicans. Where does immigration stand on the bigger picture things that Democrats are going to be talking about as far as this election cycle?
Well, as with every election cycle, the Republicans come up with complete falsehoods, lies that they want to run on. Here's the truth. Democrats have been at the table for decades looking for comprehensive immigration reform. Democrats are the ones who want to secure the border and make sure that we have an immigration system that makes sense, and that we look at all of the people that are in the United States today who are undocumented immigrants and have been here for years and give them some kind of a pathway to being documented, being legal, and so on. It's Democrats that have stood up for that, not Republicans. Now the Republicans want to grandstand, want to make this an issue in the 2024 elections, once again, because they are fear-mongering and telling lies in doing so. So we're at the table. President Biden is at the table. Democrats in Washington are at the table, ready to pass something. And it's Republicans who've said, we don't want to give Biden this. We're going to walk away and just let the nation remain in an immigration crisis, even though Democrats are ready to do something to solve this problem.
Governor, I have two questions.
Yes, hi, Shia.
Local, what are your thoughts about the mayor pulling back on building more shelters for migrants? And then two is an actual question, so.
I'm deeply concerned. We do not have enough shelter as it is in the city of Chicago. The city has not told the state where they would like us to put our resources to build new shelters or help them build new shelters. So we can't help if they don't identify those locations. And we need to make sure that we're not ending shelter capacity, as the city is now planning to do, at the end of winter. If you think this problem is going to end when the temperature warms up, it's not. We still need shelter for people. So I'm deeply concerned, and I'm hoping that at least the plan that I read this morning, actually in your column, is not one that they will end up carrying out.
And second, big picture, if President Biden were to win again, what would be the one thing you want to see him do? The big change.
You think there's one thing? We have a lot of challenges in the United States, and President Biden has shown himself capable of bringing both sides together. Bipartisan legislation to solve problems that have existed for many years. So I'm hopeful because he's the one person that's running that actually reaches across the aisle to bring people together to solve these problems. So I'm not going to name one thing. There are an awful lot of things that I think we all care deeply about, whether it's, jobs or protecting freedoms or, bringing back manufacturing to the United States, or there are many, many other things that we could talk about. I am concerned that we have to have the right kind of people leading our nation, that we need people with empathy. We need people who have years of experience and understanding, and that's what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris represent, and that's clearly the opposite of Donald Trump, who appears to be having trouble even identifying who the Speaker of the House is or who his opponent is in speeches that he's given recently, and clearly doesn't have an understanding or experience to bring people together to solve problems.
Sometimes it seems as if the Democrats haven't been as good at getting the message out about, for example, surveys say people think the economy is doing poorly and that they are worse off when statistics suggest otherwise. What do the Democrats need to do to better tell their story?
Well, we're actually solving problems and actually making things better. And in the end, it's good policy that makes good politics. And so whether there's a lag between the time that people feel the benefit of an economy where earners are earning, outpacing inflation, and therefore their income levels are rising. They may not recognize it at the beginning, but I think they're beginning to recognize it now. I'd like to say I just read a Republican poll in Illinois that shows that in Illinois anyway, there are more than 50% of the people of Illinois are optimistic about the economy in Illinois, and only 42% are not optimistic. That's different than the polls that you're citing, right? And and that's a recent poll by a Republican organization, and it shows that I think there's progress, and certainly in Illinois there is more optimism.
Governor,
Yes.
what did you hear from providers about this increase of out-of-state abortion seekers? What does that mean for the state going forward? Have they asked you for anything? Is there any role that the state will play?
Yeah, we had I think, a very meaningful conversation, and we've been listening for some time. These challenges of, having an increase of people seeking their fundamental rights, I want to say, and it's not just abortion, but it is specifically that conversation today. And there are real challenges that they're facing. We've been addressing them for some time, I want to be clear. I hope all of you have recognized that we've created, and we just talked about a system called Carla that we announced a little bit ago, maybe, I think, 9 months ago or so. Okay, in August. Feels like 9 months. But it's a system that allows, the more complex situations and patients that are either coming to Illinois or in Illinois today to get the kind of care that they need outside of simply a clinic that provides abortion care, being able to get to a hospital quickly and get the kind of care that they need. So that's just one example of things that we need to make sure we're solidifying, that they're sustainable programs going forward, because this problem is probably not going to end soon. That is to say, Republicans are going to continue to fight against abortion rights, and here in Illinois we're going to have to continue to protect those rights. I do want to, if you don't mind, I'm going to turn it over to Megan, who comes from the Chicago Abortion Fund. Just maybe she can add to what I've said about what the various folks around the table have brought up in that conversation.
Yeah, and thank you, Governor, for convening us all today. At CAF, we've seen a 92% increase in support requests post-Dobbs, and that highlights Illinois as the crucial surge state that we are. Recent research released by the Guttmacher Institute and the Society for Family Planning shows that Illinois had the largest increase in abortions in the country post-Dobbs, with Florida right behind, and we anticipate a ruling in Florida any day now that will immediately impact Illinois. As we know, people are traveling throughout the Southeast. They're already coming to Illinois, and Florida is also sharing that burden. And if we lose Florida, we will see an influx that affects our state immediately, right away.
Can you handle the influx?
I think Illinois has an extremely strong ecosystem of providers and advocates. Many of us here today, we're working together constantly to try to figure out ways to make sure to meet the need. Absolutely.
Janine, do you want to add anything to what we talked about today?
Yeah, I would just like to second what Megan said. Waiting for this ruling in Florida will really impact not only abortion care, but loss in pregnancy. And as a midwife, it would be really unfortunate for people to not be able to take care of themselves post spontaneous abortion without this medication. So that's Janine Logan
And your
from Chicago Southside Birth Center.
Governor, can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Thank you.
The migrant issue. Mayors have a meeting tonight. We've been told with a number of co-mayors or mayors around the area. Should you be at that table? Should there be a coordinated Illinois-wide policy with regard to the asylum seekers coming from the southern states, or picking it off city by city by city? Is that the right approach?
Well, I've had conversations with local officials, and we certainly, at the state level in Springfield, as the legislature is getting together now in session, that's being considered by them, what options there are for the local governments. I don't know what the conversation will be like at the table with just the mayors themselves and convened by the mayor of Chicago, but I'm sure that it will be very similar to what we've heard But it's at the state level, I think, that we might be able to help some of these local governments, maybe ones that aren't home rule, to manage through this crisis.
Will you encourage lawmakers to consider more funding to help cities, particularly Chicago, deal with this crisis and trying to find shelters?
Well, we've already made a decision at the state level that we are investing in taking care of, in this humanitarian crisis, the people who are arriving. So we've already done that. You've heard $160 million. So the decision,
If they, would you encourage them during this session to consider allocating more money in the next budget to help Chicago?
what I've encouraged the legislature to do is to make sure that they are able to backfill the lines in the budget that we've drawn from in order to provide the $160 million. I think that's something that they're going to consider later on in the session.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.